Hello, and welcome to Highway Rail Grade Crossing Safety for School Bus Drivers. The purpose of this module is to review procedures at highway rail grade crossings, including how to read signs and interpret signals and how to respond to special circumstances. Crossing procedures apply everywhere, in every country, state, city, and county, and at every highway rail intersection. In confrontation between a school bus and a train, the train always wins. You never know when a detour or a new route will lead you to a railroad crossing. If you do cross a highway rail grade crossing regularly, you should always expect a train. At a railroad crossing, the train always has the right-of-way. Let's take a look at these statistics. Collisions have decreased steadily from about 12,000 to less than 3,000 in the last 50 years. That number is still more than it should be. There are approximately 268,000 highway, rail, and pedestrian crossings in the U.S. each year. Most highway traffic fatalities occur within 25 miles of the driver's home because they're there more frequently. In the United States, a train collides with a vehicle or a person every 100 minutes. And in an average year, more people die in highway rail crossings than in commercial airline crashes. Some key points to remember. Always expect a train. Judging a train's speed and distance is very difficult. Never try to beat a train. Obey the crossing signals and watch for multiple sets of tracks. Optical illusions make it difficult to judge the speed and distance of an approaching train. Relate this phenomenon to watching a plane come in for landing. It usually looks like it's hanging in the sky, but we know that it's actually approaching rapidly. The plane's size and angle of its approach fool our eyes. The same is true for approaching trains. In addition, the apparent size of the approaching train changes very slowly. This leads drivers to assume it's not only far away but moving slowly, a deceptive and dangerous illusion. Let's go over the crossing procedure for school buses. When approaching a crossing, tap your brakes to test they're working and to alert motorists behind you that you will be stopping the bus. Stay on the right side of the roadway. Check for traffic around you before you start to move. Use a pull-out lane if one is available, and turn on your hazards at least 200 feet prior. Choose an escape route in case your brakes fail or there is a traffic tie-up in front of you or behind you. Stop no closer than 15 feet and not further than 50 feet from the track. While keeping your foot on the brake, set your parking brake and shift to neutral. Open the driver's window and the service door. Turn off radios and noisy equipment and leave them off until you have completed the crossing and are away from the tracks. Some school bus drivers start preparing when they first see the railroad sign. They begin to turn everything off and open the window. In this way, it doesn't take as long once they stop. Next, signal the students to be quiet. Look and listen to the left and right and left again. You may cross when you are sure that you do not see or hear a train or a warning whistle. Before moving, be sure to close the service door. Now let's observe a professional school bus driver demonstrating the proper procedures.
Road crossing. Activate your hazard lights at least 200 feet before crossing. Check your mirrors as you approach. Stop no closer than 15 feet, no further than 50 feet from the nearest rail. Set your parking brake, shift to neutral, quiet the students, and activate the noise kill switch to silence the bus. Open the window and open the door. Lean forward. Look and listen down the track to the left. Look and listen to the right. And again, look and listen to the left. Look across the tracks for enough containment space for the bus to clear the tracks by at least 15 feet. Close the door, shift to drive, Release the parking brake, check your mirrors, and proceed quickly across the tracks. Remember to cancel your hazards after clearing the track by at least 15 feet.
Now let me introduce the 5 Alive safety drill. This drill outlines the 5 easy steps to remember at a railroad crossing. Step number 1. Slow down as you near the railroad crossing and prepare to stop. Step number 2. Shh. Alert the students to quiet, turn off the radio and fan, and listen for a train. Next, stop no closer than 15 feet and no farther than 50 feet from the crossing. Open windows and doors, look both ways carefully, look and listen for a train. Step 4. Do a double take. Be confident that there is no train. Last step, go. Viewed from a crossing, railroad tracks produce the illusion of great distance. That's because parallel lines of the rail converge toward the horizon. The same illusion is used in art classes to create perspective. The apparent convergence of rail gives the impression that the train is further from the crossing than it actually is. Let's go over some things that you should not do at a railroad crossing. You never want to stop on the tracks. Never stop within 15 feet of the tracks, that's too close. Never try to back up once you're on the tracks. Never change gears on the tracks if you have a manual transmission. And never pass on the tracks. The average school bus is usually about 40 feet long, so you need to make sure there is enough room for your bus on the other side of the tracks before you cross. If there's any doubt whether you will fit without hanging over the tracks, do not proceed. Remember, the train will be 3 feet wider than the rails on both sides. A simple reference to remember: it takes a 40-foot long school bus at least 5 seconds to travel 75 feet and clear the hazard zone. In the event the gate comes down on you after you've started to cross, keep going, even if it means you're going to break the gate. Let's go over some warning signs. A yellow circular warning sign reminds the driver to slow down, look and listen for a train, and be prepared to stop. Pavement signs mean the same as the yellow circular warning sign. If there is a white stop line painted on the ground, the front of the bus must remain behind this line while stopped at the crossing. Parallel track signs are diamond-shaped with black arrows. They warn drivers who are making a turn that there is a highway rail intersection immediately after the turn. Crossbuck signs are the most common signs at public highway rail intersections. They require you stop and yield the right-of-way to a train if one is approaching. A sign below the crossbuck sign might indicate the number of tracks present. The gates are down and the lights are flashing when a train is present, but not every rail crossing has both gates and lights, and never attempt to go around the gates. There are other signs you need to be aware of. You may have stop signs at the tracks, or multiple track signs. When there's more than one set of tracks at a crossing, there may be a sign beneath the crossbuck with a number indicating how many tracks are present. You may see signs to remind you not to stop on the tracks, that the tracks are active. Exempt signs alert the driver that the crossing has been abandoned or it's disconnected. A stop is not required, but follow your local procedures about stopping at an exempt crossing. Some tracks may be out of service. In some states, these signs may be posted at crossings that have been abandoned or disconnected. Again, follow your local procedures about stopping at abandoned tracks. It is important to know what to do if you think the signals at a railway crossing are malfunctioning. Do not cross. Call your dispatcher or the police. Sometimes an 800 number is posted at some of the crossings. If a uniformed law enforcement officer or a railroad flagman is present and they say it is okay to cross, you do not need to call your dispatcher. What if your view is obstructed? You should plan your route so it provides an adequate sight distance down the tracks in both directions. Do not attempt to cross the tracks unless you can be sure that no train is approaching. Always plan ahead so you're prepared for an emergency. If your bus stalls or is trapped on the tracks, or you're required to evacuate your bus for any reason, follow these steps. Know the safest location to take your students, and plan how you would evacuate ahead of time. During an evacuation, you want to get the students out quickly, without panic, and away from the tracks. Then call dispatch. Let's review our safety procedures. Remember, you can never be too careful. and do not attempt to take shortcuts. Make sure your students know to be quiet at the crossing, and be familiar with the local laws and procedures and have an evacuation plan in place should you get stuck on the tracks. This concludes our highway rail grade crossing safety for school bus drivers. Be safe.